morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're located. My name is Robert Hancock. I'm part of the strategic business development team here at MarcomCentral. I'm actually going to be moderating today's webinar. We'll give folks just a few minutes to join here. One announcement I will go ahead and make before I pass it over to Eric Hazard is we do have the chat and the Q&A sessions enabled today. So as we're going through the webinar, if you have any questions for our two presenters, please feel free to go ahead and place those in the Q&A or in the chat session, and I'll be watching those. We are going to probably hold those until the end so we can address them. We've got quite a bit to cover today, and it's very exciting. Eric, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Robert. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Or good morning, afternoon, wherever time zone you're in. Thanks for joining us today. I want to welcome you guys. As Robert mentioned, my name is Eric Hazard. I am a product marketing manager here at Marcom, and I'll be walking us through today's session. In the background, you guys already heard from Robert, but I also have Audra and Sean assisting me behind the scenes for Q&As later with any technical questions that we may have. So again, thanks for joining us today. We're excited to show you guys the newest innovation inside MarcomCentral. It's AI-powered image generation for our libraries. Very exciting stuff today. So today we're going to see how easy it is to create high-quality images, how we can save time, and how we can continue to empower our people in the field. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end, so please stick around so you can answer any questions that you guys may have. And without any further ado, I think we're ready to dive in. Does we sound like we got a good quorum there, Robert?
Yep, I think we're ready to go.
Perfect. Okay, guys, let's dive in then. Just a quick review of our agenda here today. We're going to just briefly talk about why visual content matters. We're going to talk a little bit about introducing AI image generation. I'm sure you guys by now have heard AI 1,000 times over the last couple of years, so it's nice to see it being used in practical purposes here inside our tool. We're going to look at some best practices for success. And of course, we're going to dive into a live demo with some prompt examples. And with prompt examples, as I go through here, guys, too, I mean, I have a kind of a set list of prompts that I want to use for the webinar today. But if you guys can think of some behind the scenes while you guys are watching the demonstration, when we get to the Q&A, if you throw them in the chat, if we see some good prompts, I'll go ahead and use some of the examples that you guys provide. If not, I'll use the ones I do just so we can kind of see how it works. We're going to look at some customer use cases as we wind this up and before we get to that live Q&A. So that's our agenda today. I know that the meeting is slotted for an hour. We'll be lucky if we take about half that time today. It's a real simple, easy tool to use. It's very exciting, but it's really about introducing you guys to it and, again, answering any questions that you guys may have to get you guys up and running with this new feature inside our tool. So first off, let's talk about the power of visuals. We know that great visuals aren't just nice to have, they're actually critical. People process visual faster than text. It's probably something that started in our childhood. If you can remember back then about how we used to learn, or if you have children, you can watch them learn, right? Visual is generally the way to go. But strong imagery can be dramatically increasing the engagement of our assets. But many teams struggle to get the right images quickly enough, and especially with limited creative resources. That's where AI comes in. It can play an important role. We know that today's, we're all working with less, right? The budget constraints and so forth, especially in the marketing department. So AI really becomes a backfill for those, and especially in the way that we do imagery and things of that nature. So it's really great. 65% of people are visual learners. I would include myself in that 65%. We can see that if you actually use visual content, it actually increases engagement by up to 80%. So really impactful. And like I said, the biggest thing in here is marketers struggling with time and sourcing of relevant images. And I would say that's the biggest thing. One thing I would add in there too is if everybody uses stock art, there's a thing called stock art fatigue. You guys may noted that there's a handful of images that are really good and people tend to use those same images over and over. So they start to lose their power over time. So we want to stay unique. We want to stay fresh and not get bogged down with fatigue of using tired and retread of images. And so we want to meet our new creative partner. MarcomCentral now includes AI-powered image generation. You can create brand-aligned, on-demand visuals without relying on those stock libraries or design bottlenecks. It's going to be fast, it's flexible, and really it's built to help you scale your content effortlessly across your organization. We're currently using DALL-E 3 version of OpenAI in our application. That's the one that's available through the Open API. Certainly, as we progress and as they progress in their development, we'll probably be, again, going up in versions in our development as that becomes available. So look for those announcements as we kind of embark in this AI journey together. A couple of key elements in here, guys, is number one, It's integrated directly into your MarcomCentral libraries. You're going to see a set of buttons. Once it's integrated in, it's really simple and easy to use. Again, we're generating images on demand with some prompts. Those are going to be descriptive elements that we're going to plug into the element. Those creative bottlenecks we talked about, it might be dispersed teams. It might be working with people in different time zones. You may have people that are out of town or on vacation. So we want to eliminate those by simply just doing things ourselves or having AI do it for us. And most importantly, it's going to empower those distributed users with more content. In fact, like by the time we get to these use cases at the ends, guys, this content is what's important, because what we're seeing is, again, more localized regional type imagery that reflects their demographics. And sometimes if a corporate headquarters based out of a single city may not have the flexibility to tailor those images for all those geographic locations. So that's where AI can really help and step in and solve that issue for us. So how do we get the best results? Well, to get the best images, our prompt should be descriptive, right? We want to think about the setting. We want to think about the subject. We want to think about the mood and the style that we're trying to achieve in here. Adding details like lighting, soft natural, or studio lighting can be helpful. And always keep in mind your brand identity, right? The colors, the tone, the theme, and the feelings that you want to represent. These are very important because, again, it only works on your instruction. So some of the tools in here, it will need some refinement in the way that you build these prompts, and they will get better over time as it is a learning machine. But the idea is that we want to be very descriptive in the adjectives and the lighting composition of what we're looking for to achieve the desired effects. And here's some examples to inspire you. In fact, these prompts I've already put out here, guys. When we get into the tool for the live demo, I'm going to start by showing you some of these images that have already been created using these prompts. So you'll get to see how these actually play off of one another. And you can see that there's different verticals of industry because not everybody is in the same line of business that's on the call today. So this gives you a really clear idea about how we can use these for specific verticals. For instance, in retail, we can use a coffee shop storefront in spring and make it realistic looking. We could probably add a little bit more detail to that as well if you wanted midday, or maybe a shallow depth of field is one of my favorites prompts that we can use inside of the tool. We can look at healthcare, right? Nurse and a patient smiling using soft lighting in an office setting. This gives us more of a friendly inpatient kind of setting for healthcare. Again, the biggest struggle you'll see that in those use cases is really the demographics of healthcare, finding diversity in our imagery to represent the demographics that we're actually targeting. In hospitality, this is a really good one because, leisurely and hospitality has a lot of flexibility. So it's not really location specific. It's more about the feels and the imagery. So, if it's Santorini with a dinner at sunset in Greece, easily to achieve. But in this case, we'll do simply like a hotel lobby with guests checking in warm tones. That warm tones, again, is reflective of our theme and our palette that we want to reflect in this campaign or in this imagery to associate to those campaigns. For nonprofits, maybe we've got volunteers planting trees in a park, right? A candid shot, so maybe close up. If you guys are into photography, you can use keywords like bokeh if you want out of focus and really artistic shots. It can achieve those, right? And for higher ed, maybe it's simply students studying outdoors with a campus landmark in the background, right? So these are some that I've already kind of put out here. These are examples for you guys to kind of get your feet wet with how we want to interact with it with the AI tool. But most importantly, guys, if you can think of suggestions for these prompts, go ahead and put those in the chat now. So when we get to the live Q&A or in the live demo, maybe we can use some of those suggestions in there and really kind of maybe use your examples to generate images today to give it a little bit more personal feel to it. So where does it live? And let's see it in action, right? This is the whole point of why we're here today, is to get inside the tool and see it. First off, it's going to live inside our admin tool in the template assets tile under the library section, right? It's associated to images. This is where we're going to build those, and we can, once we create them, you'll see that we can add those to a library. We can name them accordingly, but you will see the thumbnails and everything in there as well. But once we interact with it, we're going to be able to enter a prompt. That's that description that we keep talking about. We're going to see output orientations. I'll go through these once we get in the demo. You've got quality of output and, of course, the style of your output. So these are all little drop-down menus that make it really easy for you guys to achieve this. And once you hit create, you're going to review, create again if necessary. If it doesn't match what you're looking for, we can certainly create many times before we add to the library. But if we're satisfied with our image, simply click it to the library, and then you'll see there's a return to library button right there. So we can stay in here, create a handful of images if we want to, and then return to that library, clean it up if necessary, and then associate that library back to a template. Right? So very easy to do, easy to create, but with exceptional results. So we're happy to do this for you guys today, and happy to have an AI tool inside of our Marcom admin section as well. So let's jump over to a live demo. So I'm going to escape out of this presentation real fast. Once we complete the live demo, I'm going to come back. We'll do some use cases, and then we'll look at some FAQs or some Q&As for you guys that you may have for the course of this webinar. All right, everybody should be seeing my admin screen. Robert, can I get a confirmation that it's visible?
I'm seeing your screen.
Perfect. Okay, so all we need to do is navigate it to. This again is just an example of Beacons. It's a restaurant. It's not really any matter what the theme is in here today, because we're just looking at a specific tool. But where do we find this? So once you guys do the integration and you link it up to your OpenAI account, when you get to template assets, you'll jump right into libraries. Now, again, you're going to see a list of all your libraries. So the actual AI tool is embedded to each individual library. So, I mean, if I wanted to start with my logos, I could come in here and I know that I want to add those to that. Or if I have a specific one, I can go ahead and build in there. I've got a library simply called AI Images. I'm going to click on that, and that brings me into my tool. Standard settings, you got your image, colors, text list, collections at the top, some job direct options as well. But what you'll see down below, if you have images in here, of course, is the thumbnail, the naming conventions, what type of file they are. Of course, you guys know you have image alt text. So if you guys are using accessibility features in the system, you may want to put in the alt text in here, as well as, what is it over here? The search keywords. So again, AI can help generate those image search keywords for you guys all in one shot. But some of those prompts that I mentioned in the example was some things like for retail, right? I think I had a coffee shop in here as well. So let's take a look at this coffee shop. And you'll notice again, you know, some of you guys who have maybe done AI imagery, you know that it does some things very well, some things are questionable. It is getting better. The one thing that is definitely going to be improving upon in the next versions is the font recognition. This does, though, follow my prompt very succinctly. It's a coffee shop storefront in the spring with a realistic look. So I've got like almost like cherry blossoms blooming, flowers, outdoor, beautiful open storefront, very passable for stock art within the system, right? No people involved in this one. That is probably another one that AI has sometimes trouble with, is hands and arms. But in this case right here, none of those exist. So this is a really, really great example. Go back. If I can go back here. Oh, I might be stuck in a loop here. Sorry, guys.
It opened an image in a new tab.
Oh, there it is right there. Oh,
yeah, you got it.
Heads up. There we go. Thank you. And then we've got healthcare, right? A nurse and a patient smiling in soft lighting in an office setting. I plugged that into AI, and this is what it achieved. Again, what we talk about mostly is that diversity element, right? Finding enough that represents the demographics in which we interact with. So that is really, when we get into those use cases, you're going to see a big limitation for small marketing teams trying to support regionalized efforts, especially if you're a franchise with 1,500 store locations. Every store location has a new request every week, starts to bog you down. So this is where AI really can help you out. Certainly passable, plug it in for stock art, absolutely doesn't work, right? Hospitality, I had one in here, a hotel lobby with guests checking in under warm tones. So warm tones being in that orange and red kind of theme. This one does have people in here, but it's great because I did use kind of a shallow depth of field prompt in this one. So it kind of lowered it, but kind of blurred a little of the folks inside of it. So again, it still looks like a beautiful lobby. The people look real. Again, based off of our prompts, right? Open air, could be New York, could be Chicago, could be San Francisco. Again, unless it's specific for a hotel chain that needs to have the branding elements in there, this is a great stock art piece as well to use. Some other options that we had in here to inspire were for nonprofits, those volunteers planting trees in a park. Where are those guys? Here they are, right here. This one used my depth of field, my shallow depth of field as well. Like I said, it's one of my favorite prompts inside the system. So kind of gives a little bit of diffused background. They're a little bit blurred and out of focus, where I'm mainly just focusing on the top two subject people here of the man and the woman planting that tree in the park. Again, it could be Central Park, could be City Park, doesn't matter. It's actually achieving what we're describing it to do. So great use of this. And if you guys are paying attention, you'll notice that these are all in different orientation. This was landscape. I had a portrait one there for healthcare, and for hospitality was actually square. So you can start to see what we can generate in here. So square for social media, and then portrait and landscape for more print or PowerPoint exercises, right? And then the final one I had in here was the higher ed with students studying outdoors with a campus landmark in the background, right? So here we've got, I got a couple of examples in here as well. So here, again, we've got 4 students out at the picnic table, out in the quad. Again, the campus is generic, the landmark is generic, but it absolutely achieves. We don't know the university it's on, but it still highly represents that this is a higher ed photograph, right? Students studying in a quad by the campus landmark, exactly as we prompted it to. Again, very passable. The lighting in here, again, you're going to be able to play with. That's going to be one of the features that we see within the setting, is that we can change vivid versus natural. And I would say that that's something, again, you just want to play with to kind of get the effect that you're looking for. Again, AI is not perfect at this point, right? So it is going to be trial and error, but the more succinct of the prompts that you guys use, the more closer to the realistic images that you're plugging in and looking for, you're going to generate. All right, let me close that guy out. So let's take a look and do some live demos in here. So here's what I was talking about. Once the integration is plugged in, right down at the bottom, we're going to see our standard features in here, like upload and downloaded images in the system. But right in here, we see our new OpenAI image creation tool, right? It's that simple. It's built in. Once it's linked in, all I do is click this button. It gives me the 4 prompts that we saw in that screenshot. Right, so we've got descriptions, we've got the orientation. So this is where I was saying pay attention to there, because we have square, portrait, and landscape. So again, square for social media, portrait and landscape for our print assets or for our digital assets, right? Easy to plug those in and make those available. Any image that we generate here, remember, will adopt the frame settings of your template. So if it's centered, proportionately filled, that's going to achieve. It's right aligned or left aligned, those are going to achieve the same setting. So we're just basically plugging in the parameters that we can use inside of those templates. The output quality is either standard or high, and I think you guys all know what that means. Standard is just kind of a lower res version of it. High, of course, is a higher res quality image. Certainly, probably for print standards, you're going to want to use high. For our purposes today, just so it generates a little bit quicker, I'm just going to be doing standard for our quality of output. And then finally, the style for your output, vivid or natural. Again, this is something that you'll play with. Some people will say vivid gives the best results, but for me, it's about the prompt that you use. Sometimes natural is actually more candid and more realistic than the vivid. But certainly if you're looking for high contrast or high composition type imagery, vivid is definitely your format to use in here. All right, so let's look at a couple and let's generate a few in here. So like I said, I've got some prompts ready for us to go. So I'm going to say, how about let's do this one, because I think this one is great. See how it does with food. So we've got food and beverage. So I'm going to do gourmet burger on a rustic wooden board, studio lighting with high contrast, appetizing, and sharp. Right. I'm not going to use my shallow depth of field on this one quite yet, but I'll be using that in a couple other ones. So the orientation for this, let's say that it is going to be for a social media ad. So I'm going to do a square. I'm going to choose standard just for our purposes today, but for this first one, I'm going to do a natural one just so we can kind of start to see the difference. So once I plug in my parameters, all I have to do is hit create, let AI do its magic. Now I will say it's not going to be instantaneous. Remember, it is looking at this data. It is actually generating an image based off of that prompt. So it will take about 10 to 20 seconds in here to generate this image, maybe a little bit longer for those high quality images. Let's take a picture of this. I mean, yep. Starts to make me feel like lunch is right around the corner. It's actually perfect, exactly with my prompt. It's diffused. It shows a close-up of a pretty appetizing burger, in my opinion, on a wooden board, even with a little rosemary in front of that. Right? That's a great one, actually. So I'm going to add that to my library. Add it to my library. It's going to plug it in. And once it adds it, it just leads me into the section. You'll see down below create, there's a return to library. So again, I can sit in here and create as many images I need to before I return to the library and either rename it, clean it up, and before I associate to anything else. So I love that one. That one was really good. Now let's do go for how about this will be a good one. This one is for like a custom for a branded look, maybe. So let's go a minimalist flat lay with branded stationery on a pastel background, styled like a social media post, right? So we'll go square since it's social media. We'll go standard again. This time I'm going to use vivid for my style of output. And I'm going to create this. And for these next couple of ones, what I'll do is probably change just a couple of these settings and create before I actually save it. so you guys can see the difference. Remember, it is AI, so it's generating something unique every single time. So here's our stationery, right? All laid out. We've got pens. We've got kind of a pink kind of tone in here. We've got our media devices. I mean, pretty much everything you might need on your desk is available right here in this imagery. So let's change a couple of these settings in here. Let's go from square. Let's go to landscape. And let's go with Brandon. Let's go with a bold background. Let's change that from pastel to bold. And I'll take off like a social media post. So we'll go landscape, I'll go standard, and we'll go natural this time. And I'll create. And like I said, these settings it's really about just trial and error, right? And like I said, most of the time it's about the prompt that you want to use in here to really give the tool lots of direction about what you're trying to achieve. And then look at that. We've changed our background. I've got those bold colors. Those are primary colors, if I'd say so, right? Red, blue, and yellow. And again, got my stationery laid out, an overhead shot in a landscape format, just as I asked. Again, simply usable. It does have type on here. So again, I may not love that, but again, it's something, again, that AI definitely will be improving over time. Let's do another one in here for retail and franchises. And I'll point out as I keep doing these too, if anybody's put any in the chat, just let me know, and I'm happy to use these. So this one's going to use my favorite prompt, shallow depth of field. I'm going to have a barista pouring coffee with a green apron. Again, we probably know what a green apron signifies if we're talking about a barista, right? In a cozy cafe. But let's go portrait this time. And this time I am going to do a vivid selection, and let's create this guy. Like I said, shallow depth of field, it's just as you start to play around with these prompts, there's a host of resources to find good prompts online. You guys might be using OpenAI or ChatGPT currently. You can actually ask AI for AI prompts as well. I mean, it's another way to use that tool to keep inside the system. So here's a barista. She is wearing a green apron. I don't know if she's pouring coffee into her hand, but it's certainly not in the cup. So something I'd probably want to retool in here to make sure it's a little bit more realistic, but definitely has the setting. It's a cozy. The lighting is fantastic in this one. Actually, the person definitely looks believable. The hands are legit. It's just about her pouring coffee maybe into space that doesn't quite resonate, right? So let's change a little bit in here. So let's say pouring coffee into a mug. Let's be more specific, into a mug with a green apron in how about a busy street cafe with my shallow depth of field. I'm going to go back to natural this time, and let's change this one to landscape, and we'll create it again. Robert, as this is checking, is there any prompts possibly anybody added in there that they want me to try to create today?
I haven't seen any come through yet.
Okay. I'm checking on my side as well. So let's see. Oh, yep, I've got a good one too as well. Now this one looks a little bit more believable, right? She's actually pouring it into a cup rather into her hand. So again, I love that shallow depth of field just because you get that bokeh effect with the blurred in the background, a little bit more believability. The highlight and the focus is on her hands pouring the coffee into the mug. I definitely have my busy street cafe here. Absolutely, I'm going to add that one to my library. It's perfect. And I'm going to use one more example in here, guys, before I jump back into the tool. And we'll talk about the library just a little bit more. This one will be for, let's go with for hospitality in here. And this one, again, an elegant dinner setting with candles and wine glasses in a romantic mood, right? Let's say with flowers. Maybe it's date night, right? Let's go landscape this time. I am going to go vivid, and let's create it. So as you can see, I mean, it really is. If you give the right prompts about what you're looking for, again, keeping in mind the tone, the theme, the color palettes in which you want to use, put all those keywords into that prompt and give it really great direction. If it doesn't match what you're looking for, change your prompts and recreate. Now that is a heaping bouquet of flowers. I wouldn't be able to see my wife or my date on the other side of that, but that's okay. because that's exactly what I asked for. And I've got wine glasses. I got a ton of candles. It might be a fire warning there, but looks really good. In fact, it's got the diffused light in there. Again, if I'm doing something that's hospitality-wise about maybe a banquet or a dinner, an elegant dinner invitation, this is something perfect for that. So again, I'm going to add this one to my library as well. Now, as you notice, as I add these to the library, how it keeps me in this tool. So if I want to back out of this, all I have to do is say return to the library. So it's going to return me right to the library that I've been working in. So anytime that you use OpenAI, make sure you're working in the library that you want those images to be in. In this case, I built just a simply AI image asset library, but these may be mingled in with your current stock art as well, right? And maybe this will help you get rid of some of that stock art, because like I said, I mean, I've been in this business for a long time, and I was a graphic designer a lifetime ago, but image fatigue is real. And there's nothing more, you know, when I pay attention to ads and I'm like, man, I think I saw that picture last week in something else, and it's used in a different setting, it kind of loses its impact, in my opinion. So, you know, this way I can build an entire AI imagery based off of my verticals or my needs, being very descriptive in my prompts. Now, the only thing that you'll probably want to do is clean up the image names. They are auto-generated based off of your settings. And of course, they're unique digits inside our system so that they are always creating unique imagery. But certainly if I want to come up here and change these, so, you know, I'll just call this one. I kind of been using the prompt AI in here, so I know that they're generated by AI, but I'm going to call this one my dinner vivid, right? .png. All right, so you can clean these naming conventions up however you want. Make sure you hit save once you clean those up. But it does present you the thumbnails, does present you anything else that you need in here. So like the image alt text, like I said, the image search keywords, all of these are available in here. You do need to select, but you can create AI to use those keywords. So we have been using AI in the system in the background for some time, actually probably a couple years. But this is the first time we've ever able to push it out into image generation and image creation. So with that, that kind of.
And Eric,
yeah, go ahead.
Eric, we did get a couple more samples. If you have time for another one, we've got 2 more in the chat. I can share those with you.
Yeah, let's go for it. I said I love this kind of stuff. So yeah, throw them in the chat, and I will copy and paste because I'm so good at that.
Perfect.
Oh, here we go. A skateboarding waiter wearing a suit balancing a tray of food in a winter storm. All right. That one, I actually I'd be impressed. That guy's going to get a good tip. I'm going to do it for Square, and I definitely want this guy to be vivid. So let's do this for social media. Skateboarder waiter wearing a suit, balancing a tray of food in a winter storm. I like this. And this is where, like I said, you can really, I mean, if you get some outlandish requests from folks, I mean, think about the amount of budget I would need to have to set up this photo shoot, right? To have a skateboarder in a snowstorm with a tray of food. Now, it's not on his head, but he probably realized he would lose it in the storm. So I'm going to change this from vivid to natural, and let's see how it changes this imagery. But exactly what you asked, he's got some nice shoes on too. So let's create a new version of this. And let's use natural. And like I said, sometimes vivid gives it maybe an overblown contrast, or kind of maybe sometimes a almost cartoony feel, where that natural may give you more of a realistic feel. But that's something that you could put in your prompt as well. That almost looks like Matt Prussia, right, from our team. That's interesting. All right, so this guy looks like he's in Central Park. Maybe he just came from the cafe and is delivering some food over to some folks enjoying the winter storm on some benches. But that's great. I love it. All right, a couple more in here. Let's see. Now, this one is going to be interesting because it has. Oh, he definitely needs a helmet. Now that I see the chat room in here, it's great. So let's try this one in here. So storefront window with a 30% off sale sign. Focus on the sign with a short depth of field. Again, I love that depth of field because it's going to give us a focal element. Now, what we're going to need to do is find out if it will actually do our font recognition correctly. Like I said, I keep standard in here, but let's go vivid for this first one in here. Let's create it. I said this will definitely improve over time. Like I said, we are currently using DALL-E 3 version from OpenAI. I think 4 is out currently, but 3 is available through the API. So again, as they keep upgrading and enhancing those versions, we'll certainly be updating and implying those into our back end here as well for you guys to use. Well, it's close, right? 330% off would be a heck of a deal. I mean, they might be giving you money on the way out, but regardless of the 330% off, it's actually pretty close, right? I mean, it's a great storefront, clear on the window display. I like the reflection of the lights in the window. If it had the 30% off sale perfectly, then I would say it's absolutely a win to use. But let's just try it and go back to natural and see if that, you said 30% off in a quotation. So it is definitely reading that. Maybe that quotation market reads it as another 3. But it also says, I can't make out the text. It's like Soliversary. So yeah, again, font recognition is always a little tough inside AI at the moment, but changing and updating rapidly. So now we're at a 90% sale. I like the first one better, but again, close, but right, no cigar. But you know what I could do is save that first vision, drop it into Photoshop, clean up the sign, and put my own text in there, and I've just saved a truckload of time. Mainly as we talk about in these use cases, it's budget restraints, right? How much does it cost to do a photo shoot for one image, especially if somebody asks for a skateboarder, a waiter wearing a suit, balancing a tray of food in a snowstorm? Those are a lot of elements that have to line up and would be pretty costly to produce that image in real life. But in AI, behind the comfort of our desk, right? It takes a couple little key pen strokes in here and hitting of a button to generate those images. So a little update in here, I think in the chat from Audra, my support crew here today. She said DALL-E 4 is rumored to render text far more accurately. So we're excited to make that available in the future once it comes along. So keep that in mind, those limitations, but use prompts again for elements maybe outside of focusing on text at the moment. Like I said, even for the most part, the people rendered today were actually really good, except for the pouring of coffee into a cup or into her hand rather than a cup. But changing the prompts changed and remedied that situation. So, hey, great prompts in here. A lot of this is to have a little bit of fun and play and see what the limitations of the tool are and see how beneficial it really can be for you. Right. Super
and Eric,
impressive,
in
right?
defense of the AI on the coffee example, I believe she was actually kind of trying to hold the lid on that coffee pot as she was pouring it. Still missed the mug, but I believe she was holding the lid a little bit.
Maybe that was it. I did. I generated one of those the other day, and it was very interesting. She was pouring coffee, but the cup was off to the right, and the coffee was like going through her hand to the floor. So maybe it was a long day at the cafe, and she was missing her mug. But other than that, it actually was pretty spot on. I'm going to make one more change to this because there is a prompt in here as well. Let's see if we can add some branded colors in here as well. So Eldar, who supplied this, I don't know all the hex values off the top of my head. So what 3B39E5 represents, you'll have to tell me what color that is so we can see if we're accurate. I'll say using the branded colors, for example, this, focus on the sign. So let's go back to Vivid because I think that was a better version. And let's create this. So it's a light blue as I've been updated. Perfect. Thank you. So let's see if it's picking up hex values inside of this. It's kind of like a magic trick, isn't it? Just again, the prompt is what's really critical in this, guys. And as you interact more and more with AI, you'll find out that prompt really drives it. It's kind of blue. It's a bluish gray. It's closer to a 30%. It's using the 3 as a sail. That's kind of clever, actually, from a design side. The text in front of it doesn't quite make sense. But overall, the storefront looks great. It's in that blue scheme, so keep that in mind, right? Your theme and your palette. Usable, almost, right? But again, if I drop this into Photoshop and cleaned up that sign, I'd be there with about 5 to 10 minutes of work versus everything else. So yeah, maybe we need to spell it out. Let's try that as well. We'll use this. So 30. Let's go 30% off. I'm going to take out the quotes. Let's see if it does literal or if it changes it to numeric values. Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at the chat now. The rendering of the storefront on all these are great. Like I said, it's just the text. Interesting. Hey, we got the blue in there again. I'd say it's definitely closer to that blue. I still, again, love the storefront. I love the sign. That circle is fantastic. Just need to clean up that 30 sol off. But again, once we get that newer version that's going to be released, this will certainly be improving upon that. I've got another prompt in here from a cluster. Here's another one that we'll plug this in there. Why not? Because we're having some fun here today. So this one's going to be office professionals that are candid and unposed, captured in genuine moment of collaboration around a conference table. I love it. All right, let's go landscape, and let's keep it vivid in this one as well. Yeah, that's a great prompt.
And Eric, I think this is a great example of one where stock imagery is often overused. I'm sure I'm notorious of doing this myself. So I'm curious to see if AI gives us something that's usable but fresh.
Yeah, I believe you can say no text. Like in this one, we didn't mention any text in there, and there's certainly none in there. Now, these three guys look like they might be triplets. I know everybody has facial hair these days, but I don't know if everybody looks identical. Let's change that from vivid to natural. See if we get a little bit more of a realistic photo in here. But definitely got our conference table. These guys are unposed. Well, maybe the guy in the back's a little posed, but he definitely is giving his input to the gentleman on the laptop. But that's where I said that the style, vivid versus natural. Well, I don't know which one's better. It looks like they're collaborating, but it looks like they're looking at somebody off camera. So that's not necessarily a true collaboration, in my opinion. First one was a little bit better, but just a little probably finesse in the prompt about the folks and what they're doing. Maybe a little bit more art direction, maybe a little bit better. Maybe it's a round table with things in the middle, but very close. I mean, these people definitely look believable, in my opinion. The hands are fixed. They look good. Trying to see if that one guy has 6 fingers, but 1, 2, 3, 4. No, he's got 5. Other than that, though, it looks great. Passable, certainly for stock art. Let's add it to the library, right? I mean, and that's the key here, guys, right? We're replicating stock art, but on our parameters. And sometimes you just can't find the image that you need for a specific campaign. So AI certainly can fill the void if we don't have the budget to go out and shoot these things. Especially for food. I mean, the burger one was probably one of the best ones we've done out here today, right? I mean, again, going back to that Square social media ad for a restaurant, yeah, I think that's perfect. Be very usable, especially for this site that I'm in at Beacons. So yeah, it's fantastic. All right, so guys, that's the live demo portion of this. I'm going to jump over to some use cases, and then we'll jump into Q&A for you guys. But like I said, as soon as you're done here, right, we save. If you make any changes to your naming conventions, if we go back to our images tab, right, we can go back to our libraries. Right now we see our AI images has 13. Now all I would do is go back to the specific template, change out the image library that's associated to that template, and all of a sudden I've got 13 new AI generated graphics being used in my portal. So really easy to generate these, but again, the focus is on the prompt itself. All right, let's turn our attention and go back to our presentation here, and I'm going to round it out with just some use case examples for you guys. Let me present this again. And I have these broken down by industry as well. So, the first one in here was retail. Some of these that I talked about, but the retail clients are creating localized seasonal visuals in minutes. What you're going to see in here, most of these all kind of have the same challenges from a standpoint. In fact, I think that's what's so great about MarcomCentral is the way that it can serve any industry, right, or any vertical out there, because we all face the same challenges depending on what we're doing, but the vertical doesn't matter for MarcomCentral because what we're doing is still supporting people out in the field and really looking for franchises or even location-specific visuals or even assets. So that's something that MarcomCentral does really well. So in this particular case, we're looking like a franchise of frozen yogurt brands. Again, hundreds and hundreds of franchise locations. Imagine the inbound request to seasonal request for something every day from 1,500 storefronts. Right? Talk about bogged down in your graphics department. So here we can use AI to generate those custom seasonal imagery. And there's an example of a prompt right there. So we got our snowy background with cherry blossoms in the spring. The key in here is the results, right? 75% faster turnaround for local campaigns. We get a reduced workload for the corporate design team because now we're just generating AI instead of making them go find them. And we have an increased engagement on social media posts. One thing I will point out about the reduced workload for corporate design teams is that stock art, depending on how you license it, can be kind of costly. If you use Adobe stock, it might be, I don't know, sometimes it's like 3 to 7 credits, so it's a few bucks here or there. I think with AI, when you generate and you're linked into your account, it's like pennies on the dollar to generate these images. So it may be a huge cost saving to utilize this rather than a team of folks that are just scouring, the stock art portfolios of finding the perfect picture. It may take them 2 hours to find it, where in 15 minutes maybe of just different prompts and trial and error, you may get it yourself, right? Great use case for retail, for healthcare. Teams are producing more diverse and inclusive images. Again, that's the biggest thing. That's the challenge, right? They're not having enough that reflect their community. So by using AI, they're generating scenarios like the pediatric doctor with a patient in a rural clinic or a diverse senior patient at a wellness seminar. Easy to do this. And again, the results are astounding. You get inclusive tailored marketing collateral. You get an improved patient trust and engagement because they see people who look like them in the ads. But we also get a 40% increase in template adoption by regional teams because of those images reflect the demographics in which they live. If I'm somewhere in the South, throwing pictures of New York City and urban areas probably aren't going to work for my demographics, right? I need that rural setting maybe, or more of a sunny outdoor setting rather than a bustling urban environment, right? We look at higher ed. I think this one's probably one of the biggest ones because here we're talking about marketers are building recruitment content faster and more affordably, mainly is because of budget constraints, right? When you look at here, especially in higher ed, if you guys are in higher ed or work with higher ed clients, the challenge for them is always about a budget, right? They just don't have a budget. So if they want to do outreach and they want to do all these things for photo shoots, they simply don't have the budget to do those things. So AI certainly can come in there and do these, like students studying outdoors. We saw the one I did with the students studying in front of the college landmark. But again, here we get a 60% cost savings on photography, probably even higher, to be honest. Faster campaign launches, and again, consistent visual identity across all materials because we're using the same consistency of maybe AI to generate all those images in that campaign. Right. So huge one for budget constraints. Hospitality, kind of went through this one a little bit, but it's the same thing. These are the fun ones because it's not necessarily location specific. It's about creating a feeling. So a romantic dinner set up on a terrace in Santorini at sunset, or that cozy cabin with holiday decorations, right? Easy to do. So now we can increase our direct bookings from our campaigns. We can enhance personalization and promotional materials, and we get 3 times more image options available for each campaign rather than like 2 stock photography images that maybe people are using over and over again. Again, use me back to that terminology of stock fatigue, right? We certainly don't want to reuse and wear out imagery. Nonprofit probably goes right back in with higher ed. It's limited access to relevant or mission-aligned visuals, probably budget constraints as well because they are a nonprofit. They're trying to maximize every dollar they can, right? But they still have regional offices. So in some regard, they're just like a franchise. So we're increasing the relevancy of visual storytelling. We're empowering local teams to act quickly. And hopefully we're improving that donor and volunteer engagement because our imagery is reflective of the diversity of our demographics and the people that we're trying to outreach to. And I think the final use case in here, actually, that was my final use case in there. So let's go ahead and open this up, Robert and Audra and Sean, to live Q&A. If there's any questions out there, would love to hear from you guys. So answer away if you got them.
Eric, thanks for the presentation. It was great. And we've got a great question here from Jake Miller. Jake, glad you joined us today. It's been a while since we chatted. These photos, are there any issues with copyrights or trademarks that the customer would need to be worried or concerned about?
And no, because these are tied into your OpenAI account. So any kind of legality is tied into your account that you start with OpenAPI or OpenAI. So all of that when you bring into here, no, there shouldn't be any kind of legality issues or copyright infringements because as you see, we're not using any branded elements per se. We're not dropping logos or anything of that nature in there. I am using like green aprons to visually get you thinking about Starbucks. But yeah, I'm not ripping anybody's logo or any text infringements in there. But it's all covered by your OpenAI account. So No, I don't think there's any legal issues or any copyright restraints in any of these images generated by AI. Great question.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. This might be a question that might be better suited to Sean, maybe even Audra. And is the tool available now, or does it require a setting to be enabled or an account upgrade?
It's kind of both. The tool is available, but there is it does require an account upgrade.
Perfect.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you also have to have an open AI account, because that's what we're going to link in. So as long as you have that open AI, we turn on a feature, link those two together, and it's just like an integration. So there would be certainly an upcharge for the feature. Great question.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A at this point. I know sometimes these come up after the fact. And this actually might be a good time to mention, we did go ahead and record today's session, so we will be sending a copy of that out to everybody who was on the webinar today. So feel free to use that as a resource tool or share it with your teams. And I think there might be some more questions spawned from that, Eric.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I get it. Sometimes people are shy in these settings. So, if you have a question and you don't want to ask it here, hey, just reach out to your CSM. We'll follow up you directly after the webinar. Easy to do. Here's our information here, guys, who was on the webinar here today, myself with Audra, Sean, and Robert. Certainly you can reach out to those guys directly as well, or your CSM directly. But as Robert mentioned, we do have this session recorded, and any kind of any additional information, we're happy to talk to you guys offline and get you guys up and running with this new feature. I think it's a great enhancement to MarcomCentral, and I'm really excited to get people to use this feature.
Thanks, Eric. And actually, I'm going to go ahead just in the chat for everyone. I'm going to place my email directly in there. So if anybody does have any questions, I know sometimes, like I said, I think of them after the fact, or something I just kind of want to chat a little bit more in detail about one-on-one. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, and I'm happy to set up some time one-on-one with you.
Great. Thanks for doing that, Robert. Hey, appreciate everybody's time today. I know it's not easy to take a 45 minutes out of your day, so we'll give you about 15 minutes back. But appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, great rest of your week. And thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you all.